The Naked Guys Double Feature Part 2. We're talking about The Naked Gun. If you didn't watch The Bad Guys 2 review, it'll be up here in one of the corners. Go check it out. But yesterday I saw The Bad Guys. I saw The Naked Gun back to back. And I'm giving my review of The Naked Gun. Now, I wasn't really looking forward to this one. I'm not the biggest comedy guy. I just find their stories to be really predictable. I didn't like the trailers at all. I thought it was just too stupid for me. But what did I think about the movie? I'll tell you here in this review. Before I do, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what are your opinions on The Naked Gun. If you haven't seen it, what are your expectations for it? And with that said, The Naked Gun with Liam Neeson, for the most part, I think works. I think it's a decent comedy. What's the number one goal of a comedy? It's to make you laugh. Did I laugh? Yeah, I did laugh. I found a lot of the jokes to be really funny. From the very beginning, it is just very much reminiscent of an 80s or 90s parody movie, early 2000s parody movie. Something I really did enjoy because I grew up watching movies like Spaceballs, which is one of my favorite parody movies. So I respected how much they do lean into the parody aspect of it, and I found it to be really funny. And there were just some gags that just made me full on belly laugh. There's a specific one: house, curtains, dog. You get to that sequence, be prepared to die laughing. I could not stop laughing during that sequence. And throughout the entire movie, there are just scenes that made me chuckle, made me laugh. Now, as someone who's not the biggest comedy fan, there's not a lot of scenes that made me just absolutely die laughing, can't stop laughing. There is one or two, though. And so, when a movie can just constantly make me chuckle and then throw in those big laughs, I think it's a success. So the comedy in the comedy movie works. It's a parody movie that works. I also think Liam Neeson, great in here. I had my doubts, but again, his deadpan comedy is so great. He delivers every line with a straight face, which is great because half the lines he's saying don't make sense. So, I mean, he really helps elevate the comedy and just what he does. Not really physical comedy, but others in the movie's physical comedies really work. So the whole cast is great, but the main one, Liam Neeson, he does really good in here and sells the deadpan comedy. I also didn't think the story was 100% boring. Now, again, as we enter the third act, I was like, okay, it could be a little more interesting, but I didn't feel like the entire story was boring, where I'll watch, like, Happy Gilmore, and I'm just not invested in the story. I'm just there for the jokes, and that's what works for it. When I watch this movie, like, when we're actually getting the story, it's not completely putting me to sleep. So, a story that wasn't bad, wasn't the best, but it was interesting enough. Liam Neeson's deadpan comedy is great, and as a comedy movie, it's funny. What more could you want from a comedy movie than it to be funny? That's all I can say, is that the parody movie is funny. Yeah, my whole theater was laughing from very beginning to end. Are there jokes that miss? Of course. But not much. There's not many jokes that miss. It just gets so ridiculous, so zany. And I'm even, like, thinking about a couple jokes throughout my day, and I was chuckling. So, I mean, the comedy works in the comedy movie. As we enter the third act, I was getting a little bit less interested, and the movie was running a little bit thin for me. The movie's only an hour and 20 minutes, or 20-something minutes, and I did find myself getting a little bored. Because when we enter the third act, it focuses more on the story and this device and what's going to happen. The fate of the world is in their hands. And I definitely did find myself running a little bit thin, like I do with quite a lot of comedy movies. The humor was running a little bit thin for me. So, like, I did kind of leave the movie on a sour note. And I don't like saying that like, a movie that I laughed the majority of, the third act didn't quite work for me. Because I don't think it's a terrible third act. But I'm not, I didn't hate the story, but at the same time, I wasn't completely invested. It's weird to say, because a lot of comedy movies, Happy Gilmore, other comedy movies like that, story's just so basic. This one's basic, but throughout the entire movie, it didn't completely bore me until the third act, when we're actually trying to pay stuff off, and then it wasn't as investing as the rest of the movie. Complicated, right? So I did kind of leave the movie like, okay, it ran a little bit long. I was ready for it to be over after a while. Wasn't a movie that I sat there full on invested the entire time. With its sense of humor, ran a little bit thin for me at the end. And that's what's really going to hold this one back to being one of the best of the year, because, like, I'm not the biggest comedy fan. And so when we get to the end, there actually was some cool stuff happening, and I constantly thought to myself, What if I was watching like a really good action movie that had potential to be a really good action movie instead of just watching a parody? So I kind of fell out of the comedy mood along the way. But when it's funny, it's funny. The comedy works. It's still entertaining. My whole theater had fun. It's really just a me problem and my personal taste with comedy movies, what my issues were in the third act of the film. Before I give you my final score of The Naked Gun, please subscribe, like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what are your opinions on The Naked Gun reboot. What are your opinions on the originals? And if you haven't seen The Naked Gun reboot, are you excited to watch it? I want to know all that and more. And with that said, The Naked Gun, really funny. It works as a comedy. It's hilarious. Liam Neeson's deadpan comedy is great, and the story, for the most part, wasn't completely boring. But we do reach a certain point, and the movie starts to run really thin on me, which is mainly just a me problem. I don't think it's going to happen to you, but as someone who's not the biggest comedy fan, and it's his least favorite genre, it did run a little bit thin on me. But for the most part, I think it's an entirely solid 3-star comedy movie. That's why The Naked Gun reboot is going to get a B from me. Thank you guys for clicking on this review. Stay tuned. This weekend's live stream is going to be a DreamWorks tier list. And with that said, subscribe.